We all know the San Antonio Spurs are one of the most prominent franchises, not just in NBA history, but in all of sports history. And we've watched them dominate the game of basketball for so long. A lot of people don't know this, but the San Antonio Spurs, they went to the postseason 22 consecutive times. I think that in itself is extremely impressive. And in those 22 consecutive trips to the postseason, they were able to win 5 NBA championships. And along the way, we've seen them beat some of the greatest players and some of the greatest teams in NBA history. And also, we've seen some of the greatest players suit up for the San Antonio Spurs in NBA history. Look at guys like David Robinson, Timmy D. They also have legendary foreign players, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and they even had Kawhi Leonard. And it might not have been for as long as we wanted to see, but his tenure with the Spurs was very, very impressive. And when I look at guys like Kawhi Leonard and Tim Duncan, I think they're the same two guys, but just at different positions. Timmy D is very fundamentally sound at what the power forward position needs to do, and extremely unstoppable. And it's the same way with Kawhi Leonard. Not very flashy, but extremely fundamental. He's everything you would want in a small forward. So the San Antonio Spurs, 22 years of dominance, and then right now they're going through their first rebuilding phase in a very long time. And boy, do I tell you, they gotten extremely lucky in their rebuilding phase. They hit the 2023 NBA draft lottery, and they got Victor Wembanyama, a prospect that a lot of people call the greatest prospect of all time, even better than LeBron James. And we're not going to get into that today because that's not what we're talking about. But I just wanted to allude to how good of a prospect Victor Wembanyama is. And not only is he just a good prospect, but he proved his first year in the NBA that he's probably going to be running the league pretty soon. He's extremely talented, and I think his rookie year, although the San Antonio Spurs didn't succeed as a team, I think individually things looked it looked very easy for Victor Wembanyama. And one thing I really enjoy for him, I think like the deciding factor when it comes down to players with the type of skill set of Victor Wembanyama, I think you just had you gotta have to want to be great, and you gotta have that dog in you. And after watching Victor Wembanyama last season, I definitely think he has that. Whenever he played against guys that played the same position as him, or played in that front court, playing against guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo, playing against Joel Embiid, he was able to bring the best out of them, but he was also able to put on a show as well. One of my favorite regular season games from last year was when the Milwaukee Bucks were facing the San Antonio Spurs, and Giannis and Victor Wembanyama, they had a great showdown. And the Milwaukee Bucks ended up winning the game. It was a nail biter, but they just have a significantly better team than the San Antonio Spurs right now. And looking at what they did this offseason, the Spurs did something that I think is going to elevate Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs to a new level, and that was signing legendary point guard Chris Paul. I know what some people are thinking. How is a 39-year-old Chris Paul, coming off the season that he just came off with the Golden State Warriors, how is he going to elevate Wembanyama in the San Antonio Spurs? And the first thing I want to say is that the Golden State Warriors is just not the right fit for the type of player that Chris Paul is. The Golden State Warriors were going through a bunch of turmoil with the Draymond Green and Jordan Poole situation, and somehow Chris Paul ended up on the Golden State Warriors. Seeing him in the Golden State Warriors uniform, to be honest, it didn't even look right. But just to why things, I think it didn't work. You look at the type of team that the Golden State Warriors have been over the years. They like to play up tempo, super fast, and get up as many threes as possible. And Chris Paul, that's not really his style. He's more of a half court player. He's more methodical. He wants to get the best shot possible in a half court set. So I think it makes a lot of sense that he didn't have the greatest season with the Golden State Warriors. And we also have to consider that him and Stephen Curry plays the same position. And at this point in his career, there's no way he's going to be taking minutes away from Stephen Curry, and you can't play those two guys together because they're both super, super small, and that could cause some problems on the defensive side of the ball. But I think things are going to look a lot better look a lot better with the San Antonio Spurs with them adding Chris Paul to the starting lineup. And I think we're going to see things. I said things looked easy for Wemby last season. I think they're going to look even easier. We've seen what Chris Paul was able to do when he had bigs like Clint Capella, when he had bigs like DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin. They created one of the most legendary nicknames of all time, the Lob City Clippers. I'm not necessarily saying that I think we will see a lot of lobs, but that's not the only thing that Chris Paul is going to make easier for Victor Wembanyama. I think just getting him in the right spot, getting teammates in the right spot to get the ball to Victor Wembanyama, and then something we seen last year, and this was going viral over the internet a lot, was Victor Wembanyama. His teammates were just missing him when he was running the floor really hard, holding his hand up, or he was wide open under the rim. Just a few different clips of those instances of him not getting the ball, and that's just unacceptable with Victor Wembanyama being the player that he is, the prospect that he is, and then he's also 7'4". So the Spurs, they went through a few different point guard experiments last season. They tried the Jeremy Sohan thing, went back to Trey Jones, and then towards the end of the season, we saw a bunch of different lineups from the San Antonio Spurs. So I think it's very evident that they needed a point guard, they needed a floor general, and at 39 years of age, I think Chris Paul still has some decent basketball left to play. He's not a guy that's reliant on athleticism. He's reliant on his mind. He has an extremely high basketball IQ. His mid-range game is still elite. He still can do those things to get to the foul line, and then also he's he's gonna be there to create plays, not just for Victor Wembanyama, but I think he's gonna make life a lot easier for guys like Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. These are guys that's been without a traditional point guard since DeJounte Murray left, and when DeJounte Murray was on the Spurs, and this was without Victor Wembanyama, this is with Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson, they were able to be competitive enough to get to the play-in tournament, and they ultimately ended up losing to the New Orleans Pelicans, and I want to say this was in 2022. So I think adding Chris Paul to this mix with Victor Wembanyama, with guys like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, I think the San Antonio Spurs are going to be significantly better than last season. And also history points to that as well. Wherever Chris Paul has gone in his career, he has made that team or that franchise significantly better. We start off at the beginning of his career when he was just a young dog. He took the Hornets where he got drafted to. And before I say these stats, Chris Paul is the only player in NBA history to go to four different teams and help set their franchise record in total wins in a regular season. The first time he did it was with the Hornets, and they broke their regular season record with 56 wins on the season. And then his next team was the Los Angeles Clippers, broke their record with 57 wins on the season. And after the Clippers, he went to the Houston Rockets, broke their record with James Harden, and that was 65 wins on the season. And after the Houston Rockets, he went to the Oklahoma City Thunder, where the franchise record was not broken there, but he did help a young, unproven team, a Thunder team that just had lost Paul George and Russell Westbrook. He helped those guys get to the playoffs, where they almost beat the Houston Rockets in the first round of the playoffs, but they fell short. But he played a huge role in getting a super young team, a young rebuilding team at the time, to the playoffs. And then the next record he helped set was when he went to the Phoenix Suns after the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they won 63 games, which was a franchise record. So Chris Paul is not just his play on the court, but it's just his leadership. He's a great vet. He seems like a person. He seems like a good uncle. That's what Chris Paul seems like, and that's exactly what the San Antonio Spurs need, because you can't be having Victor Wembanyama, who's 7'4", who's considered to be the greatest prospect in NBA history. You can't have him not getting the ball when he's wide open under the rim or when he's running the floor. That's just unacceptable. So I think getting Chris Paul out there is going to be an extended version of Greg Popovich out on the court, and I think it's going to be very, very I think it's going to be very, very fun to watch. I think the San Antonio Spurs, and I'm not saying that Chris Paul is about to come here and the Spurs are about to win 50, 60 games, but I think they're going to become an ultra competitive team. The NBA is very different today. The Western Conference is getting better and better, but I don't think they're going to be at the bottom of the barrel, and I don't think they're going to be a lottery team again. So I love the addition of Chris Paul, and I think it's not like I said, I don't think it's just going to help out Victor Wembanyama, but it's going to help out some of the other young guys on this team as well. Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. It's going to be very, very exciting, and I don't think I've ever seen the league, the NBA, in the state that it is, well, at least in the Western Conference, of how competitive it is. It's truly impressive. But that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.